Hello, good evening, fellow travelers, friends, and photographers. It's another week, and today I'm going to share with you a beautiful fort, a living fort in India, in the state of Rajasthan. So please stay tuned. Now, if you are looking for a travel channel that not only provide you with a lot of images, but also to provide you some historical and geographical facts, then I would suggest that this is the channel for you. So please, if you are entertained by my channels, please do subscribe, like and share to your friend and family. Now, let's move on to today's episode, the Golden Fort of Jaisalmer. Now, Jaisalmer is a place in the state of Rajasthan. If you look at this map of Rajasthan, for those who are first time seeing this episode, follow up these episodes, you can see Rajasthan is one of the largest, I think it's the largest state in India. And you can see from the map, the map of India, that is on the northwestern part of India, border to Pakistan. And if you look at the maps of Rajasthan on the right, with the largest size, you can see a lot of dots. All these dots are those prominent, important cities in Rajasthan. And Jaisalmer is the dot that is closest to Pakistan. Let's look at the next slide. We'll see where exactly Jaisalmer is located. This is my travel journey or routes taken during my visit to Rajasthan. Of course, we landed in New Delhi. From there, all the way, we travel in the loops to cover the state of Rajasthan. And look at the arrows, green arrows that pointed in this map. It's exactly where Jaisalmer is located. So you can see that Jaisalmer is very, very close to the state, the country, Pakistan. Now, we are going to visit this Golden Fort, also called the Living Fort of India. From this picture, you can see that is a row of something like a fort, a so-called wall, built around a wall of hills, above a hill. And this is actually the Jaisalmer fort. And it's looking from far. Frankly speaking, that this hill is where this fort is located, is of the name Trikuta Hills. And it is actually sited in the Thar Desert of India. In other words, Jaisalmer is a desert city in the state of Rajasthan. And because it's very close to the borders of Pakistan, so it's also subject to quite an extensive influence of the Mongol and Islamic culture and religions. And therefore you can see that some of the architectural styles in this part of the world are somehow or other is amalgamations of few different cultures. There is a Hindu cultures, also the Islamic culture, and also at one upon a time was ruled by Mongols and the Mongol cultures. It's quite unique in every sense. Now let's move on to this Jaisalmer Golden Fort. Now this fort is basically constructed of yellow sandstone, and also is well blended because most of the building material used in this fort are basically obtained from the surrounding area. I mean from the grounds where it stood. And because of that, you found that most of the material they use in construction are all natural materials. And the area happened to be the earths or the soils over there tend to be yellowish in color. So as a result of that, we found that the fort buildings, houses that built inside the fort as well as outside the forts are basically all yellowish in color, or some people like to call it goldish in color, particularly when it's during the evening sun. And Jaisalmer fort is actually is a very few fort that still have people living in it, and that's why it's called the living fort of India. Currently, actually during the very early ancient time, the Jaisalmer fort itself is actually the Jaisalmer city. As a city expansion, then you realize actually the fort is not big enough to contain the population, so they're expanding outside the fort. And today, the fort still have 25% of the people of Jaisalmer staying inside, and the 75% is living outside the fort. And our visit to this fort, we also cover the Jaisalmer city outside. So today I'm going to share with you my travel to this town or this city. This fort have a history of close to 800 years. And at the same time, you will also realize that this fort have a lot of unique architecture piece of works. And I'm going to share with you as well. And as well also all the living lifestyle of the local, because we are not visiting a palace. We are visiting a fort that have stayed with many locals, right? So we're going to have a lot of street photography in this episode. Please stay tuned. Now, just now, the image show the entrance point to the fort, and it's a small passageway, and you can see right away. You can see that there's so many shops are there selling all sorts of products to the visitor and also to the locals, to the resident. And I'm going to show some of the view that we can see from the outside of the fort. That basically, just now we saw it from a very far view on the mountain tops, but we're going to give you a closer view of all these forts. And some of this picture was taken quite in the late afternoon, and during the sunset sun that make this fort even more goldish, and therefore it got its name, the Golden Fort. So you can see that because the fort built on top of a hill, so if you are stood at the foothill, the fort looked very gigantic in size and huge and well high above ground. And you can see these are the building inside the fort, and it still have people staying in, and it's actually been occupied by the residents. Well, this is some of the view taken before entering the fort. The fort, I think, that time was built also to cater for the defensive purposes against the enemy attack. And you can see that the steep slopes, as well as the high above the hill above, is definitely a best defense during the ancient time. As you enter the fort, I think the thing that attracted my attention is actually the architectures, the facade of the building, and particularly the cantilever balcony or window at the window area. And it's not only the railing that is impressive enough, even the decoration beneath the balcony were astonishingly beautiful and intricately done, in very fine detail. And this is where today I'm going to share with you a lot of photos of this beautiful facade of those buildings that still found well preserved abundantly in this Jaisalmer fort. This is just only some of the I consider it's quite normal in this picture. until I show you some of the later pictures that you will even surprised how beautifully all these windows area, the balcony, and all the building elements that show on the facade are so interesting and beautiful. Of course, as my experience when I enter many of these forts and palaces, particularly the forts, you find that you enter through quite a number of gates, and gates are built for defense purposes. So you can enter the first gate, you may not be able to enter the second gates, and therefore we are entering quite a number of gates as we go into the fort, the actual fort, center of the fort where the people are staying. So this is one of the entry point. After enter for just out of the point, we show you the entrance point. This is the second entrance point, a doorway, a small passage. And at this passage, you can see on the left hand side, the passage, a small door opening. Then on the right is the facade right above the gates. And as you walk inside toward the town center, you can see that actually the construction of these forts are basically using quite a fair bit of massive yellow sandstone and well stacked to form the wall. And you look at the picture in the center, it's somehow very, very unique. The sandstone was stacked, cantilever out gradually, right, sloping outwards. This will give you a stride area above, right? And this is how they maximizing the area of the fort by building a lot of cantilevers structures. And not only in this picture, I will show you later on in all the subsequent pictures, some of the picture, to show you how those row on row of building in the fort itself are building up cantilever out floor to floor, until they reach the highest floor. It's almost cantilever out close to about 2 meters from the lowest floor level, And on the picture on the right, you notice that there is the slab, a stone slab that protruding and cantilever out from the middle of the wall, at the middle of the wall, to form something like a step. But it just stopped midway. It didn't go further down. And actually, at the last piece of it, from the ground, is still about 2 to 3 meters away. And I believe it's very close to act as an emergency escape for the resident, because you can see at the upper piece of the cantilever slab is actually leading to a doorway. So I believe that any resident want to get into that opening itself, you can't access to these cantilever slabs unless until you have a ladder to use it to access to the lowest piece of the cantilever slab. So quite interesting constructions you can find in this fort. And this picture, the intention to share with you is actually the shape of this cantilever balcony. It is in the form of semi-octagonal in shape, but what catching me is not only the cantilever, the stand of cantilever out from the building face, outer face of the building, but also you can see the decorations, the way the decoration that they place under this balcony. And you can see many more just fantastic, beautiful decoration of below the balconies later on in my subsequent picture. In this case, in this picture you see is actually a rectangular balcony or windows that are projecting out, and you have a totally different type of decoration compared with earlier pictures. And some of the wall, they have these prayers, gods that have been placed at high level for the worshipping or more for the blessing of the residents. I believe it have to do with the blessing of the resident, whoever will come into this fort at high level, so that people will not easily access to it and touch it. Now this is another gate, considered one of the largest gate I have entered in this fort. And you can see at the picture on the rightmost of your, is actually a stone bench. And because this fort is more close to a few hundred years of history, so there have been many people who are actually passing by this passageway or this gate. They tend to sit there and take a rest, because it's also providing a shelter. And to a point whereby you can see that the place where the seat, the bench seat surface is so polished, shine, you know, because over 100 years, how many thousand people have been sitting on it. So as you go along in the fort itself, we will bring to sections whereby that giving you a lot of astonished decorative architectural masterpiece of works on all the facade of the building, and all been well preserved. And I'm going to lead you through, and this is just the beginning of some of this picture I begin to show you. Here is the facade of one of the section of the building. You can see that the balconies, the roof to the balcony, and some of this balcony even have a screen to it, and the screen was so well done, you know, and so intricately done. And I did manage to get close and have a look. Actually, it's not exactly made of wood. It's not a wood carving, and some of it, yes. And you realize actually they use a lot of those clayware. So I believe that they're using a lot of clay molds to form all these screens or decorative elements to be fixed under the soffit of the balcony. So this is some other view of this building facade. You can see in this case, the even building facade is actually not flat one, right, but irregularly, symmetrically presented. This is another view of the facade of similar nature nearby. So to visit here, we are given a bit more time. So I managed to capture quite a fair bit of images of this fascinating building facades of its kind. I believe that you can find this in any other part of the world except in this region, Rajasthan, particularly in this Jaisalmer. And of course, when I visit, I mentioned just now, we are not only visit just only the building, the city center in the fort, we also visit the other Jaisalmer city outside the fort. And anywhere you go in any city, they're bound to have temple or mosque and whatsoever. So therefore, you also come across the temples within this living fort. And against every temple that I visit in any part of the world is always producing astonishing, outstanding masterpiece of works of craftsmanship, first-class craftsmanship. You can see from this picture is how beautifully the displays the facade of this temple. This is an area I want to highlight to you. You can see that this part of the building have a tendency to build every floor. The floor area tend to be extended by virtue of the cantilever. They mean that, let's say, a ground floor, when you move up to the first floor, the first floor balcony were extended probably 0.6 meter to 1 meter beyond the building line. Right? Then when you reach second floor, the second floor again were extended another 0.6 or 1 meter beyond the building line of the first floor, and so on. Of course, fortunately, because during the time of construction, there's no reinforced concrete structures, and they rely on basically all those traditional construction material. As such, I believe that they are not able to build high. That's why the building here are mainly limited to maximum 4 story. 3 story is the most common. And at the same time, they did allow 2 times of cantilever to a point whereby close to about 2 meters beyond the building line at the ground floor. So you can see that, that's why I say earlier, the building area are expanding on each floor as it moves up. And this is one of the very key uniqueness of the building architecture in this part of the town. And just look at these 2 pictures taken right at the bottom of the balcony. You can look at the design, the decorations is so fine and detailed, meticulously detailed, right? And fine workmanship. And definitely, if you get a closer look, you realize actually it's made of clay, right? Molded, clay molded and fired, and then they do an assembly on site, piece by piece. Window is always the main attractions of the entire visit, and his balcony and the decoration below the balcony in this part of the city. Many pictures are taken on as many of the windows that we come across, and you can see that these are the pictures showing the different design that you expect to see in this part of the town. Here is a 4-story building, fairly high. I think it's the highest of all. And you can see right at the topmost, you still have a so-called balcony right above on the top of the 4th floor. I believe the rooftop, you can call it a rooftop. More building facade to share with you. And you can see that because the city is at the border to Pakistan, so the influence of Islamic culture is quite strong. And therefore, to a certain extent, you look at the arch on the picture on the left, you have somehow have some form of Islamic elements built into it. So you can see that the culture, the architectural style in this part of town itself is not strictly a Hindu culture or architectural style, but also a blend in Islamic value. Here is another very clear view of how the floor by floor the building extended out. You see, right? The first floor you can see in the picture is the right most area cantilever out. As you move 2nd floor, you move further out. You go to the 3rd floor, you move further out. So this gives you a very unique feature as you walk in the street, where on the ground floor, you probably still have about 10 feet wide of walkway. But as you move, you are climbing up to the highest floor window and look out, you are literally face to a window on the opposite side of the street. And probably the window, the distance between the two windows of these 2 buildings probably is less than 1.5 meters. Some even could be only just 1 meter apart. And this is another unique facade that I come across in one of the streets in this part of the town. It's very much different from the photo we have shown you just now. It's interesting. Indeed, this picture also, I'm speechless. The moment I take a picture of it, I almost stare at the pictures and just won't hope to spend another 5 or 10 minutes to look into it. How could they possibly do this type of building decorations? I believe many hours are spent just to do this few balcony. More and more pictures to share with you of how astonishing the display of the facade. They come in many form, design, in shape and size. So each one is a masterpiece of its own. And you also, some of the facade even have a statue. I believe it's an Indian god or Hindu god that they worship by the owner. So you can see that at the highest most of the building floor or the roof level, you can see the eave of the ceiling, and you see beneath it how the ornaments, clay ornaments, are being done and decorated. And we also come across some old street shops, and equally interesting, you see the columns and the arch, the form between columns have high Islamic value in it. When I share with you later on in my episodes, I think next year, I'm going to share with you my travel to Iran. Then you will be able to see some similarity between this architecture and the Iran Islamic architectures. Here you can see the effect of when the buildings are cantilevered out on the facade as it go floor by floor up. And you can see that from the picture, both picture, from the straight below is fairly wide, but at the topmost you can see that they are most touching each other. And this providing quite a good shelter shade to the street. And therefore the street are generally quite dark in the sun, because they have a narrow gap for the sun to pass in, to pass by or to shine in. So this is some other sections of the facade. I always like to capture a picture of door and window. I believe these building elements are the best representation of a religion and a culture of a place that we visit, and also will show you a lot of historical value in it, and tell a lot of story. So I'm just lying side by side these two pictures to show two of the type of door that I found in this part of the world. And all these show the sign of aging, and all these doors probably maybe some even hundreds over years are still in use. Here come the window area. I was very impressed or fascinated to see that they really spend a lot of time in decorating the window. You can see that how beside the carving that they have done, the wooden carvings done on the wooden part of the windows, but also they hang on some of those decorative items. I believe something to do with their belief or religions will hang on top of the window opening. This is another picture. It's very impressive and beautiful. And this is the picture taken in the highest floor, where there's an open balcony, a large, the roof, probably the roof level. And also taken some of these pictures from the shop nearby to show their decoration and the lantern that they fix on. And this is still another picture to show some of the doors, side door, and as well as also the carving and the decoration and the ornaments that they fix on the facade of the building. Here, there's a place for the placing of the locals' gods, and also the green chili. The green chilies did strike me because when I visit to China, particularly near Tibet and Sichuan, I found in certain part of Sichuan or the Tibet area, you find that the Tibetan and the local, they like to hang all those dry chili, red chili, on the doorway. They believe that this red chili will able to chase away the evil spirits. And over here, they hang the green chili. I think probably they share the same meaning or same purpose. These actually are aerial views on one of the roof of the building you look down at Jaisalmer city. This is not this picture is not taken inside the fort. It's actually outside the fort, where the 75% of the population stay. And you still see that most of the building are constructed bare finish using the clays, mud clay or mud brick. We call mud bricks, or even the yellow sandstone. These are some of the street scenes, and you can see that the floor is stone paved. It shows that how long the history of this fort are. I mentioned just now, if not wrong, this fort have close to 800 years of history. And this picture is taken while we are in a fort and looking down the Jaisalmer city. And I found this dog. This dog also want to admire the beautiful scenery of this Jaisalmer city. So I get this dog into my pictures. This is another view. So the entire city is using the natural material obtained from the ground, and therefore with no painting or any form of decorations, therefore give you a very bare yellowish in color. And as a result of this, with the blessing of the setting sun, that produce a goldish color, and therefore Jaisalmer also sometimes we call the Golden City, but they like to refer it more toward the Golden Fort, because the fort is a more prominent building structure in Jaisalmer. More views of the from the roof of a building in Jaisalmer city. Now, we have covered basically the building architectures, more on building facade and so on. It's a time for me to share with you the street scene and also the lifestyle of the people. It's a living fort, so it's good. I expect that the inhabitants here will have to find a way to earn their living. So some of them are mobile street hawker or vendor selling local food, snack, and thing and on and so on. And also they cater for the visitor, because this Golden Fort is very, very popular among tourists. So you can see, you can find a lot of tourists, and some of these tourists are stay right inside this fort, and therefore you can see that they are selling all kind of things to attract the visitor. This is one of the food store. It's a carpet vendor and also textile vendor. I think this is textile, not carpets. Sorry. Here another sections. Some of these are actually just hang on the wall, or on the lanes, on the side lane, on the side or the straight wall. Spice. Indian is famous for spice. In this table, I believe that you can easily find not less than 40 species of spice or type of spice that have been sold. In fact, if you go to India, if you like spice, you don't miss a chance of buying some of these spice back. You cannot find it anywhere in the world, and it's a very cheap and reasonable price. And this is actually a handicraft. It's also used for some form of traditional cultural performance. which I did saw they've been used to perform. Like in Malaysia, we use wayang kulit, a type of performance called wayang kulit, and as this is actually the doll they use for the performance, but they are not under the shadow, right? Perform in the form of under the shadow, right? But it basically is without performing right in front by moving with the string tied above this doll, and then move it, and then they will just act like they're dancing, and the music turn on to present a story. More of this. And this is actually a handicraft of painting on ceramic tiles, and very, very striking colors in use, and very interesting artwork was done by the artist. This is a vendor that's selling so-called antiques, or those decorative ornaments and so on, and it's quite interesting, but I believe that it's not cheap. Since I have no intention to buy, so I did not ask for the price. And this is the displays in one of the antique shop, and I found these two little statues, or two human figure, have very high cultural value of the local, and I captured this in my pictures. These are some of the wall ornaments. People buy it to hang it on the wall, and they kind of all kind. And you can also see the elephant gods. That is very, very popular among Indian. This is another handicrafts, another type, and you can see that at the top look like the roof, right? The roof, the face. There's a human face, and this is actually the sun god that believed by the Indians, Hindu. Silverware is also an important items that loved by many, many peoples, and you can find this not only in India, but also found quite a fair bit in China, southern China. Here is about food, the street food. If you would like to try, then I find you okay, to try this food, but it's come out from boiling oil. I think it's safe. But you want to try any street food, I would advise that try not to try those street food have been pre-cooked and is cold and displayed and exposed to all contaminations. And also try not to drink any cold waters or icy drinks or that nature when you travel India, because the main source of contamination comes from the waters. Therefore, ice, we don't know how clean the water is used for the producing an ice. So drinking ice water is somehow or that is not that encouraging. You want to stay yourself free from fall sick during the trip. And this is two of very, very unique piece of works that I have spotted during my visit there. On the leftmost corner is a wok, and this wok is a gigantic wok. From the scale of it, I look at it, it should be about 1.8 meter wide. And it's not a full single piece of metal. Actually, it's formed by many, many pieces of metal, small metal piece fusion together. That make it interesting. Well, on the right, what I'm trying to show is actually the door is a door panel at the lower portion of the door panel. You can see there's one piece of metal ironmongery that this is actually they use it for the anchor or the locking of the door, and it's somehow very, very unique. This is some of the handicraft you can find on the street that the vendor are selling to the tourists. Street scene along the street. And I still found some traditional measuring instrument like the one in the left. This lady, they're using this traditional measurement instrument to measure the weight of the vegetable that she is selling. And on the right is still a traditional shop, a smith selling some of the metalworks. And you still can find some street performer on the streets. And what attract me is most is the headwear, the headdress. Somehow or other, in this part of the world itself, they put a lot of emphasis on the headdress. It's very, very beautiful, very colorful. All of it vivid colors. This is some more street scene of the street vendors. The lady there are selling some, I think, the jewelries, those precious stone to the visitor. Then on the left is a phoenix feather, which is widely used by the Hindu as a decorative items. These are the few last few pictures that I'm sharing with you. It actually I like most. It gives you a very contrasting between the old era and the modern era. A bicycle, the fairly new and modern looks, were placed next to ancient wooden doors to show the difference in the lives. I mean, in terms of time zone when these products are being manufactured. And this will show how rich the Indian culture is, where you have a painting on the wall showing the elephant gods, yet it was just beside it is a very intricate, beautiful, bluish painted wooden door with metal grill. And lastly, is this interesting billboard where having a poster showing the movie currently showing in the cinema, and happen to be actually, I believe, something to do with Bad Boy. Alright, I mean all these boys that show in these pictures are the bad boys. A movie that's showing at the time when we visit, and it struck me because it's give you a very, very unique scene and a good record of the place that I visit. So this is about this living fort. I would like you to stay tuned to the next episode. We are going to share with you another very important and very beautiful fort of Rajasthan, Jaisalmer Fort, right, under the city tree of my fort and palace. And of course, before I end, I would like to thank those viewers who have stayed with me until this hour of the day. And at the same time, I hope you are safe and strong during these pandemics. And for the overseas friends, I also wish you well and strong. A good night to all Malaysians, and good days for those of different time zone. I will see you again, and please stay strong and stay safe, and bye. Thank you very much for the viewing.